Welcome, good people. How are you doing? It's the Market Sniper. That's right, Francis Hunt. You're with us. Hit the like button and the subscribe button. We're here to talk to you about news events, manufactured, created, or otherwise. It's no surprise. Pelosi was showing up and creating a little old escalation, and then China got agitated and has been flying drones a little too close to Taiwan, and now you have Taiwan shooting down a drone for the first time off the Chinese coast, says Reuters. Off the Chinese coast. They don't say off the Taiwanese coast, which makes Reuters, interesting how that's being reported. We know their bias. We know who runs them. Taiwan's military, for the first time, shot an unidentified civilian drone that entered its airspace. That's the key point. It entered its airspace near an islet. That's a small island, islet of the Chinese coast on Thursday, after the government vowed to take tough measures to deal with the continued intrusion. So this wasn't the first instance of drone flying. It wasn't the second or the third. They were warning, sending messages, and of course the Chinese kept tapping. Beijing claims Taiwan as its own against the strong objections of the Taipei government, which has held military exercises around the island since early last month in reaction to a visit to Taipei by Nancy Pelosi. So Beijing is up the ante. So actually the visit of Pelosi has caused the escalation that peed China off, that said, don't you get so independent that you start having speakers of the house show up at your island, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And next thing you know, they start buzzing the place with drones. The Defense Command for Kinmen, a group of Taiwan-controlled islands opposite China's Xiamen and Quanzhou cities, said in a statement released by Taiwan's Defense Ministry that the drone entered restricted airspace over Lion Islet around about midday. Troops at the islet tried warning it away, but no effect, so shot it down with the remains landing in the sea. Taiwan fired warning shots at the drone for the first time on Tuesday, shortly after President Tsai Ing-wen ordered the military state to take strong countermeasures. So Taiwan's complaints. Chinese Foreign Ministry, which on Monday dismissed Taiwan's complaints about drones as nothing to make a fuss about, referred questions to the Defense Ministry, which has yet to respond. So this is all very mealy-mouthed political speak. Let's just be clear on one thing. We started with the chart. If anybody has owned the Asian FX crisis and continually warned that this will be the area that will have one of the largest, and in many instances surpassing the down breath on the euro, it is us. The USD Korean won is invariably our trade. We've been speaking about the potentialities of this setup for the better part of 4 or 5 years. We were watching it when it came up here. We called it a break when we had our fake break that was eventually killed with the 7 trillion release back down in there. In fact, we tied it to Bitcoin, because at that time Bitcoin was looking very bullish and getting ready in its first cup gold nugget. And we said, could the best trade be the BTC Korean won? Of course, the dollar was killed, so it was actually even better for BTC against the dollar during that period. But now we have the USD Korean won. On our channel, you get the news before the news. It's amazing to hear Zoltan Polzar, the genius, the speaker, is now suggesting we could have a Bretton Woods Mark III moment. And we're like, God, dude, we've been saying that for 2, 3, 4 years. And other people, by the way, plenty of other people have been saying that. But they choose who gets to say in the mainstream media the unthinkable. And they only start bleeding it out in their time. You've been hearing it on channels like this with real technical analysis long before. On this channel, if you search USD Korean won, man, you're going to see all sorts of clips that have been going on about the big Asian collapse. Oh, there's the Bretton Woods Mark II moment being referred to once of many times. If you're on a reset channel, you would have seen it referred to in 2016. If you want to know the news before the news 5 years in advance, you go to our reset channel. If you want to see it technically 2 years in advance on charts before it happens, you're on our Market Sniper channel. This is how it rolls. And we've been warning, we own the Euro Swiss franc, we own the USD JPY trade with further weakness for yen. I owe you a clip on Beyond Milkshake about how this is going to be a very specific Asian FX crisis and how certain commodity currencies are actually going to do well against the same Asian currencies as well. So whilst there is a dollar dominance theme, it's a simplification of everything. This USD Korean won is going to fail substantially. And in fact, to that point, we were even on Real Vision. And this is what we said in public, in person, on Real Vision. This is what was said. Listen to this clip play out.
Can I just jump back to something that you said a moment ago that was really quite striking to me? USD KRW, dollar Korean won. Are you calling for a halvening of the won, a 30-year low on the won? And I think there's scope for overperformance.
Are you calling? Did you actually say that? Can I just sanity check what you just said? Are you actually calling? Hate YouTube, the way it rolls onto the next clip. I didn't ask you to do that.
Francis, can I just jump back to something that you said a moment ago that was really quite striking to me? USD KRW, dollar Korean won. Are you calling for a halvening of the won, a 30-year low on the won? And I think there's scope for overperformance.
And we think there's scope for overperformance. That was on April in 2022. It wasn't the first time we'd mentioned the big USD Korean won, not just on Real Vision, but obviously in our channels. So now you are having, and it's quite interesting that this Taiwan event has actually, one of the biggest movers has been actually the Korean won. Of course, USD Taiwan dollar, we expect that to be a major fail. We've discussed plenty on the USD Hong Kong dollar. With any escalation involving China, with the Taiwan situation, it's going to be a broad spoke meltdown on Asian FX currencies. The one that responded the least, funny enough, is the yen, who had moved the most already this year. So let's have a little look at the charting that we've done. And we've also highlighted how this Asian FX crisis, the first time it occurred, it had a beautiful HVF, the USD Korean won, right there, and a super spike of overperformance and loss of value. And by the time it eventually settled down, it still settled down at 1150, where previously it was in and around the levels of 780. So it still had a halvening in overall value once it settled down in terms of its range. That is what happened on the Korean won. And this label, USD dominance and a specific Asian FX debt crisis, which is not going to be the same as it will be for commodity currencies like Australia, Canada, and things. We are having the anti-metaverse period at these times, where inflation is going to be about things, not services, and digitize this and technological own the future that, in the cloud, in the space, looky with your visor into this virtual world. No, the reality is going to bite. Food supply chain shortages, and this is the hyperinflation they plan, and it is utterly impoverishing for the masses and utterly enriching for those that gather up all the assets at the bottom. This is the final pump and dump scheme, the pump and dump scheme that ends all pump and dump schemes, that sees all the chips get tipped on the casino table to the one side. And there go all your chippies floating down to who just pushed the button. That's right. So this DOM phase has been happening. We've been highlighting that the 1250 level and the 1300 level haven't been seen. The last time you closed above the 1300 level was 02 March 09. This is what we're saying. You continue to march up. We've highlighted what a rounded bottom this is, and we've said that this will escalate into a super spike that will see the halvening of the Korean won. You see how when I make a lot more space up and to the right, it seems more believable? That's called a framing error, where you can't perceive a chart actually spiking and going beyond the range in which you are framing on your screen. It is a box that you're contained in. Move your chart to the bottom left and see how much further it can go. Ash was properly surprised by me saying you could face a complete halvening in the Korean won. We have been long since the 1190s down here on a small setups, all the way through, all the way up. Our community is heavily invested in this one. Some of the free views, you might get a small percent that have actually taken action. You can use cryptos and USDC cryptos, so stablecoin cryptos, on SimpleFX in the links below to trade this particular currency. But now you're coming in and it's already begun moving. But it's going to move a lot further in our view. But if it gets suddenly shaken down and your stop is too tight, you could get run. If you have no stops, you could get failed out. This is the consequence of not being early, not having method, and not understanding the trade. So be careful. You can still lose money in this environment. So that is the USD Korean won on the monthly. And I remind everybody that we have absolutely owned this Asian crisis story like we were the only voice calling for single-digit oil in an environment where everybody was never, mate. We haven't been there in 35 years. So that is the move that you got. If we take it down to the daily and have a little closer look, this has been a 3 impulse rising wedge. The only people that actually have technical, so apart from outstanding macro calls that are showing real signs of potentially even having a slugging chance, a fighting challenger punch swinging chance, not a favorite, of actually making an outrageous risk reward that is in triple digits RRR on macros in reset season. The reset sniper knows the reset has been coming and has known for 20 goddamn years and has been talking about it on YouTube since 2009 and is now selling you with technical analysis, methods that you can see how these things are going down. If you want the news before the news, there is no one else providing that news. You'll get it from Zoltan Polzar 1 week, 6 weeks before they pull the whole goddamn game down on you. This is how you find out with time that you can still do it. And it's in the charts, my friends. It's in the charts. That is where it lies. 3 impulse rising wedge. Look at that beauty. And it's doing a type 3 out the top. And you will learn all about that and why it's useful in reset times to even see that you have what is called the 3 impulse rising wedge. Don't go anywhere else looking for this theory. You won't find it. It is 35, 38. When did I start trading? At 18, 19, looking at charts at 21, standing here at 54 years old. You're talking about 33 years. Oh, a dangerous number. 33 years of someone who thinks hard, looks at charts and asks questions why. There's your flag down into the splitter. There you test the top one more time and you squeeze into another rising wedge that breaks you through the top. Boom. At any stage where we're ever bottling it out of our trade. No, rising wedge, it might crash. Oh dear. No, no, no. You learn the theory, you learn the method, you have the community. Reset times. Building wealth in reset times. They are going to use the Taiwan, the Taipei versus Beijing game to bring about the Asian FX crisis that they want. They have unbelievable amounts of debt that was generated. China created so much debt in terms of what it did during the 2008 through to 2016 environment, where they tried to keep some heat in the global economy after the great financial crisis, GFC. It was a depression. It was an absolute depression. And we had complete bank failure. We should have properly washed out all the soulless corruption and skullduggery that existed, but it only got washed out for you, the retail guy. The big guys got to carry on being big guys and doing big dirty games, and they said, oh, it's time to stop. Boris Johnson said, it's time to stop calling bankers bad things now. You know, it's been a long time without a banking industry. Yeah. That is it, guys. That is what's moved on the USD Korean won. This is an Asian crisis. How would you want to be Korea in this environment? Well, it also was bad for the Taiwan dollar. Let's have a look at the other key currencies. So we speculated, by the way, Korea has derivative-based approach to improving yields given that interest rates are so low. One of the highest participations in a sophisticated call option type game. Go and research that to a greater detail. I'm not going to mind boggle you with everything that is possible in the explanation of that. This is the Kospi. By the way, the Kospi has not made a new low, but the USD Korean won has. We're the ones on this channel that showed you the correlation on flight capital on both Korea and on the Hong Kong dollar, that when the equity market is selling off, the money is leaving that country as well. Well, the currency is doing even worse than the equity market. So even small sell-offs are leading to new highs on the USD Korean won, aka new lows for the Korean won against a dominant dollar. It is not as simple as just a milkshake. There are commodity trades going on against these same weak Asian FX on the commodity currencies. We will give you a heads up on those, maybe one at a time, so that you can get a look at what our community are doing with trades when the dollar has a momentary period of weakness, that those commodity currencies against the weakest of them all, how they are doing. We're giving you an idea of how we're thinking and what you could look at. Let's go and have a look at the USD Hong Kong dollar. How did it like the aspects and the developments of the Korean won and the Taiwan situation? Well, the Hong Kong dollar can't be left alone at a fixed level. While the Korean one's gone up, the Japanese yen is above 140. We'll have a look in on our friends in Japan as well. And at the same time, the Taiwan dollar is up. Even the renminbi is losing ground. The won, for want of a better word, is losing ground against the dollar. How long do you think this guy goes? I think this is coming up for a relative high too. And I think we're going to get a second bigger squeeze, much like the structure we got there. Only instead of breaking down, this one will break up, and they will have the geopolitical event that will go with it. You're going to have a Russia-Ukraine scenario being duplicated with a China-Taiwan scenario. Major comments I've got to give you on Reset Sniper. Go to the Odyssey channel. If you can't buy library tokens, send a donation and we will send you tokens back. Our guys will always look after you. Where I've got to discuss how September was deadline day. The Pope wants his money out of all banks and in the Vatican by September. An American bank would no longer allow gold purchases where the gold leaves the country in September. It's funny how so many things were called to end in September. Q4, my friends, the winter of discontent, and you could have your Russian hack, your Chinese hack. It can be any one of the villains when you have this Russia, Ukraine, China, Taiwan situation. They are orchestrating a global escalation in this bifurcation of this planet, so that they can hyperinflate you, impoverishing the bourgeois, the middle classes and the working poor at the expense and the gate gain of the mega controlled insider money elite who are pulling the strings. Your global communism is here, and it is a great sad fact that we are living in these times, and they are getting away with it all. They own all those leaders. So the Hong Kong dollar is up. What about the Taiwan dollar itself and the renminbi? Let's go on down and find them and have a little look at how they've been doing, because at the end of the day, this is very specific to the Asian crisis. USD, Taiwan. Wow. Have a look at that on a daily chart. That's not been so helpful, has it? I would argue that recently it's kicked on quite nicely as well, very much like the Korean won, and there is quite clearly an effect and a potential escalation that is going on. What do? If they keep getting buzzed by drones, if they keep backing off, the drones will get ever more dominant, fly over their capital, take snapshots, do whatever they want. Eventually you've got to make a consequence for this. There you go, rising wedge, pop out the top. They will fake and break it out. They will make it, resolution, we'll have a chat, we'll not do this war, and then you can get a dip back and then it can go again. But the long run is most certainly an escalation of bringing communism to the very beautiful and sophisticated people of Taiwan, bringing the spit in the streets, chase the money, pumpermental, gambler, property, over-leveraged communism that is the cliche of Chinese culture today, when a beautiful, sophisticated culture was crushed by, yes, go and watch who the Sassoons were, what was their ethnicity and religion, what cult did they exist to, that absolutely injected and brought the communism to the people of China. Yeah, so that's the Taiwan dollar, not also enjoying the situation too much. How about the yuan? Again, a pop out. This pop out we drew a long time ago. This chart I haven't touched in ages. Since the turn down here, you had a perfect first fractal, a mini fractal out of a falling wedge. I'm afraid, friends, there is no one who's going to read these charts like we do, because we love what we do. We enjoy doing it. Falling wedge, 3 impulse falling wedge, third and final impulse. Mini HVF fractal outside, super spike, first HVF in a new trend, major overperformance, next squeezy Japanese, another pushy uppy. Yes. Find anyone else who reads the chart like that, and you will I'd love to follow him and buy his products, actually, because I'm not on it 100% of the time, 100 seconds a day, every hour, every minute. It'll be great for someone who would just deliver the technical assessment along with the fundamental assessment. This is why you click the link, themarketsniper.com, and you can build wealth in reset times in an environment where most people are getting flattened by inflation, flattened by digitalized tax extraction, an ever greater system that requires you to be in the cloud, in the digital realm, real-time tax soon to come, VAT here paid the minute you receive an income. It's all coming, my friends. Extraction. The quicker the extraction, the poorer you stay. And this is the nature of the great game, turning you into Bolshevik peasant serfs to a technological oligarchical class. You can trade if you understand the concept of markets, placements of stop, and you have real method. So that's the yuan, also losing ground. That was the news. And if you think this is the end, I'm here to tell you that in actual fact, this is barely the beginning. This is barely the beginning. If you have a look out on this, not only can the dollar get right back up to these levels against the yuan in this environment, and many people, but dollar die, it's all going to be the new people. Not without a fight, I'm afraid. Not without a super pump first. That is going to lead to, we need a new financial system. We will launch our digital token for the Russia, BRIC nations, whatever, etc. And at that point, you can start letting your dollars go. But before then, there will be a surge in dollar strength, and we can see it coming. And not until it's really inflicted a great deal of pain on the rest of the world. That's what Zoltan and Zero Hedge and Hartnett suddenly talking about on Zero Hedge. It won't be because of peak inflation. How many times have we mocked every time people have called peak inflation? Inflation is a monster best killed small. You don't put it away like anything. And let's just see, where was Hartnett and Zoltan? This was a comment that you're only getting on the 1st of September. Hartnett, and they called the geniuses who are always right. Yeah, could never find the article when you want it. Let's go Zoltan. That should be. I don't know why they also don't give it to you in order, in the order it happened. Anyway, there's his Zoltan and his Bretton Woods Mark III. This is, you're hearing about it on the 25th of August. He was more recently featured with Hartnett, and in the comments they say the dollar spike there will be a dollar spike that occurs, and it won't be because we've reached peak inflation and a recession and a great mega depression, which they will cause, and it won't be because inflation has peaked. it will be because rest of the world's currencies have collapsed against the dollar. And the Asian FX is the next ones to come. It's somewhere along down here. I can dig it out with a bit more time, but they keep adding new articles. It's probably fallen onto the second page by now. Wall Street's most accurate analyst, the next shoe to drop will be, and they're highlighting the dollar strength, the BBDX. The BBDX is over 1300. That's a different measure of the dollar strength. And here we come down. Where's the tweet? Where's the tweet? Powell, pain is coming. We are going to crush demand. Biden, midterms are coming. We're going to boost demand. The lovely people in this environment of Asian FX collapse, in this environment of, we haven't checked the yen, let's go and have a look. I think it was the most calm, even though it's well above 140. And if you look at its break since we called it down at 109, you're at 140. And I'm afraid, friends, I don't see good things for the yen either, as it's still staying firm. It didn't have a particularly big surge on the Taiwan, but it's going to maintain continued pressure and is going to trend out of this in all accounts. We have targets of around 250, 230 to 250 that we see on the yen. This is like our oil price, literally, that we are seeing coming. And that is just going to be absolutely devastating for a country that relies on energy, has terrible demographics, almost as bad as Korea. So all over, this is an Asian FX update on the collapse of Asian FX. You should have, if you're a trader, in my opinion, a long-term macro which involves a dollar dominance and an Asian FX weakness, a commodity currency with an Asian FX weakness. If you have that as a pair, it's almost a hodl trade in spite of carry costs. Remember, the yen is very low interest rates, the holding costs not high. Okay, if you want to learn more about how to trade, reset in a multitude of arenas, including making money shorting cryptos, being long the dollar, being short Asian FX, being short the euro against the Swiss franc, another trade totally owned by us, much like the oil trade, much like the Korean won trade, all on macro timeframes where the song remains the same. You stay with the theme. You do not have to be jumping in and out. You do not need 14 hours a day on 9 screens, 3 up there, 3 down there, 3 down there, 1 over here, buzz, buzz, bing, bing, ding, dong, casino, stay in, must do, adrenal responses. No, macro, true understanding of the flow of the river, the macro directions. I am the guy who said at the beginning of this year and at the beginning of last year, FX is the new crypto market in terms of scale. The amount of movements we are seeing in the FX markets are absolutely phenomenal. The crypto market's gone quiet and dull and bleeding south. This is your game. This is where you should be. The structural tectonic plates of a global world being torn apart by your Bolshevik communists that want to take away your freedom. It's time to build wealth. It's time to defend that wealth, which is something we're focusing on. Some exciting opportunities and announcements in terms of a potential reset sniper community and property opportunities in around that. Choose your neighbor. Choose him whether he's a vaxxer and a snitch or someone who is libertarian, got your back, wants to have your back and wants to cover his own back covered. Be independent of grid. You've got the most bitter winter coming for Europe and the UK in terms of energy requirements, cost of living. All of this is on the way. All of this is on the way. What steps are you taking today to save your family, your quality of life, build your wealth, protect your wealth? There is a link right down below, themarketsniper.com. Book a call. It truly has never been more important to do. If you sit docile here, you will reap what is coming. And you do not even know, and neither do I, the fullness of the takedown, which could include bank hacks, crashing of stable coins. Who knows? the extent. Global warfare, a Russia-Ukraine setup with Taiwan and China, supply chain breakdowns, shortage of food, shortage of water, shortage of everything under the sun. If you are not preparing, you are accepting that this is the highest risk period for real Maslow's hierarchy of needs being taken right down to the base level where just food and shelter is an achievement. Okay, I'm the market sniper. I'm watching the world go mad and tear itself apart, something I've predicted for 25 years, something I've spoken actively about on this YouTube channel since 2009 and warned that they want you off the land, they want you a peasant where you will own nothing and be happy because they'll be pumping you with their pharma pills and regular inoculations. You can decide if that's the game or whether you're going to pursue liberty, freedom, and build wealth in this environment and be one of the few bourgeois that survive the nets that they're throwing to take us down and spoil everybody's wealth. Until next time, I'll catch you later. The USD Korean won marches forward. The Taiwan dollar is in great trouble. The Hong Kong peg is going to continue to have pressure build up against it. The yuan is going to give up ground against the dollar. And there will be even more beyond the milkshake when I cover the other commodity currencies against the weak Asians and the collapsing euro as well. Okay, until next time, we'll speak again.